calculations in FileMaker are a big topic, and in this introductory series I'd like to get you started with some basic examples. First of all, don't be put off by the name. You don't need a degree in mathematics to do this. Calculations can sometimes include some mathematics, but for the most part they apply simple logical rules, and if you're a reasonably logical person, that'll take you a long way. Let's start by looking at a calculation that does some simple arithmetic. I have open a copy of the test file from a previous lesson that I've added some fields and data to provide a classic inventory of items with quantity and price. It would obviously be a great help if FileMaker were to multiply the quantity by the price to provide a total for each line. So let's look at what would be involved in setting it up to do just that. First of all, I'll go into the Manage Database dialog and I'll enter the name for a new field. I've prefixed the field name with a lowercase c, which is called Hungarian notation, just as a reminder that this is a calculation field. I'll choose the field type of calculation for this field, and then click the Create button. FileMaker brings up the Specify Calculation dialog immediately, prompting me to enter a formula for the calculation. In this case, I want the calculation to multiply quantity by price. And those two fields happen to be called quantity and price, and I'll double click on the quantity field, and as I do you'll see that it's added to the formula box down below the list of fields. Now I'll click on the multiplication operator symbol, and then I'll double click on the price field. And now you can see the formula has been assembled for me as quantity multiplied by price. The calculation result defaults to number, which in this case is fine, so I'll click OK. And the field has been created, with the formula helpfully posted in the Options and Comments column in the fields list of the Manage Database dialog. Now I'll click OK to exit Manage Database, go into Layout mode, and I'll Option drag the price field, which creates a copy of the price field, and select the calculation from the Specify Fields dialog. I'll bring the field label up into the header, select one of the other field labels in the header, choose Format Painter, and apply the same formats to the total price heading. For the display on the layout, I'll simply remove the Hungarian notation and add a space so that we have plain English for the user to see. And now let's look in browse mode, and as you can see, FileMaker has automatically generated the total price value for each record in the table. In some cases, calculations don't even deal with numeric values. You can use them to return contextual information such as the operating system version, the current computer's IP address, the path to the user's desktop folder, or you can use them to modify or accumulate text strings. As an example of the use of calculations to manipulate text, let's take a look at the author's layout of the work file. Even though the names are entered into 3 separate fields for first, middle and last name, when we're seeing data from various parts of the system, it might be helpful to have a single field that provides the author's name assembled, or if you like, aggregated into a single value. To do that without having to type the name in twice, we can add a calculation to handle it for us. Let me show you. Again, in the Manage Database dialog, I'm going to create a calculation field. So again, I'll put the prefix lowercase c, and I'll type author full name as the field name. Select the field type, calculation, and click Create. In the Specify Calculation dialog, first of all, I'll enter first name, then I'll use the append operator, which is an ampersand, the literal quote operator, which is 2 double quote marks, and put a space in the quotes. And then I'll use the append operator again and put in the last name. Now this calculation will produce a text result. Looking at the formula, I've included first name and last name, but at the moment I haven't included middle name. And if I were to simply include middle name using the same technique, like so, I would have a problem when the middle name field was blank, as it is on a number of the records. That's because I'd end up with 2 spaces between the first name and last name. So in this case, I'm going to solve the problem by adding FileMaker's trim function. Now all of the functions are listed in a box at the top right of the Specify Calculation dialog, and in fact there's a menu of categories. So in this case I'll choose the group of functions that are categorized as text functions. And down within this list of text functions, you'll see trim, which removes leading and trailing spaces from the text that's supplied. So I'll choose the function, and I'll put middle name and last name as the content of the function, that is, the text to be trimmed. What this will do is remove any leading space or trailing space from the middle name and last name string. So in the event that the middle name is blank, there'll be a redundant space in front of the last name. And the trim function will remove that redundant space. However, when the middle name isn't blank, the trim function will respect the space between the 2 name entries, and so the space between middle name and last name will be preserved. So this total formula is a logical string that should provide a complete full name entry for each author. Let's go and have a look and see if it's working. I'll go to the list layout, and in layout mode, I'll option drag the last name field. I'll choose the calculation or author full name. I'll make the field a little wider since it's going to hold the values from 3 other fields, and return to browse mode. And you can see that each of the names has been assembled into a single field value in the calculation field, and you can also see that where there are only 2 names, a single space separates the names within the author full name calculation result. But where there are 3 names, where a middle name has been included, there's a space between each of the names. We've just looked at simple examples of calculations that handle arithmetic and text management, but in addition to these kinds of tasks, FileMaker provides calculation functions that handle a wide variety of other kinds of requirements. If you look at the drop-down list of the categories of functions available, you get some idea of the scope of calculation tasks that FileMaker can handle. It would take many hours to work through all of the calculation functions and explain how each can be used. We'll be looking at a few more examples as this introductory series continues, but in the meantime you'll find descriptions and sample calculations for all of the available functions in FileMaker's online help, as well as in comprehensive documentation available from the FileMaker.com website, including this function reference document available at the URL you see here. It's a free download and provides an excellent reference as you start to explore further to find some of the many things calculations can do for you and for your solutions.